Gundam.tk presents Gundam F90 Type A.D.S. Hey, what's up again, everybody? Robert184, 2 R's 2 B's from YouTube and Gundam.tk. Thanks for being here as I delve into Gundam's mysterious past, going all the way back to 1990 for the aptly named Gundam F90, which spun off from the manga. This is a 1/100th non-grade kit because back in 1990 grades did not exist. But anyway, this is one of the oldest kits that I've ever built, and I look forward to seeing how it stacks up compared to the new stuff. This kit first went on sale in October of 1990, and you have to love Gundam because it continues to sell for the exact same price of 2,500 yen today. You can see that standing up right here, this is a huge box, one of the larger vertical boxes in all of Gundam, and the master grades generally are standing up. So if you took this one like this, the master grade 007 sword, you would see that it's just a tiny bit bigger and wider than this very old school kit. For those of you unfamiliar with the F90, do not worry about it because it's nowhere near as famous as many of its successor works, and I'm talking specifically about the F91 movie, which came out in, you guessed it, 1991. So F90 goes back to a year before that, before the movie hit the theaters. Basically in September, the manga started and it ran for about 8 months. And at the same time in October, this model kit came out. Now the F90 is the main protagonist and the lead Gundam of the series, and it has all sorts of cool features. But basically, in addition to the manga, there was a model line coming out at the same time. If you go online and you read, you'll see that some people say, oh, it came out and inspired a manga, or the manga inspired the model lines. You know that Bandai has always been planning these things concurrently. So these things came out with the idea being, let's have some filler before F91 comes out. And the fact that it resulted in a 1/100th line, especially for a lead collector like me, is something that's too good to pass up on. Delving into the Holy Bible of Gundam, a lot of your questions could be answered. So over here you'll see this Type A.D.S, which is the one I'm reviewing right now, came out in October of 90. And then in 91, a year later, both the V-Type and the P-Type, I'll explain shortly, came out, and that was followed up by the F90 Roman numeral 2 L-Type. So no, it's not the F92, which came out in October of 1991. Now at the same time, in the following year, you'll notice that the F91, the 1/100th kit, came out to coincide with the launch of the movie, but there were actually kits from F91 coming out before that, also in the year 1990. So you can see that I had quite a busy release schedule for Bandai as they were getting ready for the movie with this F90, and then, not to be confused with Silhouette Formula 91 and UC0123, you get the idea that there's a whole lot of old kits that a lot of people may not be familiar with. One place where people may have seen the game is in the G-Generation series, whether it's on Wii or PS2 or PSP, it's been all over the place. Anyway, you can always see the F90 and its upgrade form and the Silhouette Gundam and its upgrade form, which is sort of cool to see and may pique some people's interest. So in the manga, which was later collected into just a single volume, so you don't have to go track down a whole bunch if you do want to read this, the plot is fairly straightforward for Gundam, but there is both some meta stuff and some just in-universe stuff. Basically, Bandai decided that they wanted to sell smaller models, and the F91 is a perfect example of that. And the F90 just sort of sets the stage why that sort of thing happens. Basically, you can imagine from the Gundam to the Zeta Gundam to the Double Zeta to the new, and all the way up to, yes, I'm looking at you, Penelope and Kusui. The Gundams were getting ridiculously large. Now, Bandai, that's hard to sell in terms of models. You just need a lot more plastic, so they decided to go with smaller kits. And in story, they basically said that what happened was Anaheim Electronics, who had a practical monopoly in all the previous storytelling, basically they decided to make their own branch, and they were the first to come out with the small Gundams, and they go down to the familiar 15-meter height, which would carry through most of the Gundam kits that we saw in the 90s before Gundam Seed, well, and I guess Turn A, brought back the triumph of the 18 or 19-meter Gundam. For the story itself, I read it a few years ago, so I don't remember everything, but you can guess that yes, it starts with a Gundam jacking. There's 2 F90s, they're off being tested, and there's a young hotshot pilot named Def Stallion. Yes, one of the better names in all of Gundam. And he is, of course, going to end up facing off with the stolen F90 at the end. And this is where it gets into the important part. This part is called the A.D.S. one, and that's because in addition to the regular Gundam F90 that you get in this package, you're going to get a whole bunch of add-ons, which will be clear when you see the box, for the Type A, the Type D, and the Type S. Now, you may have just seen in the Bible that they also had a V-type and a P-type, which came out later, a year later. But if you actually read the manga, you're only going to see the F90 in its regular incarnation, and you don't see the Type A or D or S in their separate incarnations. You instead just get to see them as one awesome, completely armed boss, which again, back to G Generations, is something you would certainly want to evolve your F90 into. So as I've been blabbering on here, just to sum up, 1990 you get a manga and a toy line of 1/100th stuff. Then F91 the movie came out in 1991 with a 1/100th line and a 1/60th, followed up in 1992 by Mobile Suit Gundam Silhouette Formula 91, which was also a 1/100th line and also has a single volume manga that you can go pick up to see this whole F91-ish universe. For a look around the box, which will hopefully help make things make more sense, this is number 1 in the series, and you can see 1/100th scale Gundam F90, and it comes with weapon variations of the type A.D.S. 3 different sets. So in terms of the model itself, the first thing I saw when I looked at this is, does that ever look old? It's not just the cover art, that head right there. It really needs Katoki Hajime to come and fix this up, which he did with the fixed figuration. Anyway, what you have here is the front view of the main F90. You'll notice that there's color all over the place, and I wonder if that's going to be seals or parts. The big 90 on the shield certainly makes it stand out in a similar way to the F91's shoulders. On the back, you're going to see all these parts, but the most important thing about this is that it has this thing called hard points, which is pretty familiar to Gundam fans because you still see it on things like Robot Damashi. And even if you're just familiar with the strike packs and the way that things change, basically, F90 was the one to kick that whole thing off. Here it talks about how it all led up to the F91, and you're going to get the F90 there in the background and these 3 different weapon sets. These make up the A, the D, and the S types, which all stand for something, as you'll see. And they're bragging, yes, they have camera eyes with different parts there. It's going to look pretty terrible unless you add a lot of work to it. It has a weapon mount for the bazooka, and right out of the box, here's what you're going to get, despite the fact that this kit is over 20 years old. You'll notice that there's some different colored grays in the weapons and in the seals, and that face, it looks like it's going to need a lot of work, but the shield, impressive right out of the box. To the other side, where I'll quickly show you the A, the D, and the S type. I probably think the best is at the end. Anyway, for the assault type, what you're going to have here is you get a whole bunch of blue parts that are just going to add on and give it a certain interesting feel. But once you get a little bit more interesting, the D is the Destroid one, which is going to have some rockets on the forearms, thrusters down on the legs, and some cool looking parts on the shoulders with the shield strapped onto the back, and it still just uses the regular beam rifle. I should note that the A type has the bazooka, which will be used later, and the S type, or the support type, is going to have big overhead cannons and some really cool looking Gatling guns on the forearms. It's actually going to need to be propped up there by some stilts on the back, and it's got some rockets down on the shins. So here are the 3 separate parts. You're going to get everything you need, and remember, because it has a ton of different hard points, 11 I believe, you can actually mix and match these to your heart's content. The cover shows the support type there in the background, and it's not the regular F90, it's the Type D there, which is on the cover. I guess that's why some people say it's its default. In the manga it's not, it's just the regular F90 or all 3 put together. When you crack this open, similar to a master grade having a cardboard piece across the top, there's going to be some pictures here of the F90 and tape that probably is 20 years old holding this plastic on, which has a very special plate inside. After that, you're going to have, I wonder if that's the A plate, 2 clear blue beam sabers, a whole bunch of seals, light, very dark blue, gray, more blue in the form of the weapons, and some army green down there along with an instruction manual. With this being a history lesson and an unbox all rolled into one, I'm going to stop this first part here before moving on to the plates and what's inside. Anyway, everybody, thanks for watching. If you have any questions about the F90, please ask down below. There's lots of information you can find all over the web too. And as always, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next part. Get out of here, full equipment. One small knife, that's enough to take on anybody.